Sascha O'Sullivan's with me, the host of Politico's podcast, Westminster Insider. How good of you to join us tonight. I'm grateful. Sir Keir's not on very thick ice to start with. In fact, positively thin ice. Does he fall through, do you think? Can he survive this?
I think you're going right to the heart of the problem, which is that everyone tonight, and indeed yesterday, was talking about whether or not Keir Starmer can survive this and how his response has perhaps made it worse for him. But it really has been pushing on an open door, especially with Labour MPs. You've had almost half a dozen U-turns over the course of the last few years, where MPs and those very close to him have been questioning the judgment of him and the people right at the top of the operation.
You see, the problem is Sir Keir is a former chief prosecutor in Britain. You know, he should have been far more aware of the allegations and even the tinge and perception of scandal concerning Jack. And yet I guess he was blinded by his wish so much to put somebody into Washington that would find favour with the administration. But does it hold water to say I was lied to by Epstein in such a, by Mandelson in such a way?
He's hoping it holds water. And the gamble that he's making is that the anger that people have is towards him, but it is mainly towards Peter Mandelson as well. And the line that he has of he lied to me, he lied to my advisors, and he lied to the country, really. He is hoping that will bail him out enough and direct the anger towards Peter Mandelson rather than himself.
A lot of people are saying in the US and elsewhere that it's the UK that seems to be taking it not so much more seriously, but having more repercussions because the UK's got these two very high-profile cases of Mandelson and the former Prince Andrew, who we now know is living at Marsh Farm, or will be very soon, as he's been finally turfed out of Royal Lodge.
I mean, I can't speak for other countries, but I definitely think that the fact that the Epstein shadow has been hanging over British politics and the royal family, as you correctly say, for such a long time means that there's been this real boiling anger towards it. And I think the real question for Keir Starmer here is that there was knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein's relationship with Peter Mandelson before he was appointed as US ambassador. And yes, he has said that I was lied to, and that these questions were asked of Peter Mandelson during the vetting process when he was made ambassador. But I do think it's a very interesting point, which perhaps is interesting to some of the American viewers, which is how keen Keir Starmer was to make sure that relationship with Donald Trump was on as good a ground as possible. We don't normally put political appointees as US ambassador. It was quite a rare move, and it was a gamble, and clearly one that hasn't paid off.
I think there's only a few of us will remember the last time, which I believe was Peter J. Somebody will write in and say, no, I'm wrong. Back in the 1980s, James Callaghan's administration. I'm grateful, Sascha. Thank you. And hopefully you'll come back again on Questley's Business and talk us through all of this. I'm so grateful. Thank you. Now,